Hi friends, it's Colleen, and I am so excited to be finally sitting down and filming this video because it has been on my list for so long. I had notes written up ages ago, and now I'm finally going to get it done. So back in the before times, in maybe fall of 2019, I was in a good place with my knee recovery. I was in physical therapy, things were getting better, it was seeming like I might be able to do a little bit more, and I'd been thinking about getting a spin bike because I loved going to spin classes maybe about 2018, like before I injured my knees entirely. And so I was like, hey, maybe getting one at home would be great because then I can kind of get back into it. It would help my recovery, all that fun stuff. So I dove into a rabbit hole of research. By then, the Peloton brand name had been out there for a while, and I did consider it, but then I found a whole bunch of information about making a sort of DIY Peloton setup by using any old tablet, any old spin bike, and getting the Peloton digital app rather than having the integrated Peloton bike with the full membership experience. And I will get more into what all those things mean. I ended up publishing a blog post with all of the sort of decisions I made and all the products I chose and that whole process on Broke for Beauty back in 2019 after I had made all the purchases and gotten set up and had started writing. Now, it has been a crazy couple years since then. Peloton is still a huge name in this industry right now. Some people love them, some people hate them. But I have really gotten a long time with my DIY setup, so I feel like it is a great time to kind of check back in, especially now that most of us are still doing a lot of at-home workouts, just to let you know how things are going. All right, I'm gonna pull up my notes. I have a lot of notes that I need to reference during this video, so apologies if my eyes keep going down to my screen down here, but I've got a lot of stuff for you. I'm not gonna talk about the Peloton too in depth. I feel like by now you've probably heard of it, you've probably seen it, you might have friends and family who use it, but it is basically a spin bike with an integrated screen. You can take live classes and there is a leaderboard, and there are all kinds of features and classes that aren't even spin related as well. And that bike, you have to pay a membership monthly in order to continue using all those features. And here we are at the first reason why someone might go the DIY route instead of going for a Peloton, and that is the cost. So the bike itself is expensive, but the prices have changed over time, and there are now two different versions of the bike. I'm gonna put info up on the screen as I have it. But the bike itself is expensive. You can get these add-on packs, or I don't know what they call them, but you can get extra gear, to come with your bike. And in addition to all of those costs, there is $40 a month to pay for the membership that comes with the bike. Now, when you go the DIY route, you don't have the full membership, but you can get the Peloton app that has all of their spin classes, all of their strength, cardio, yoga, whatever. I have tons of classes. You can get all those classes for, I think right now it's about $13 or $14 a month. And so that already is a huge cost savings just every month for all time that you do not have to spend when you go the DIY route. Something that also played into my decision of why I decided to go this way was, call me paranoid, but I was a little bit worried about tying everything, like my entire exercise regimen, into Peloton. Yes, you can use the bike without the membership, but not really. And I wanted to make sure that my spin bike would work whenever, and if I wanted to do classes from different places, then I wanted to have the freedom to do so. Or if I just wanted to sit with my own music and ride, again, that's something you can do on the Peloton, but for me it made more sense, and I felt like I had more control if I got a bike that was not in their ecosystem. I was also a little bit worried about if there were any bugs in the software, if people were hacking into the software and getting personal data out of there since it is so popular. I didn't want my bike to get bricked by any decisions like that. And then I felt like the technology would become obsolete like every year or two. Judging by trends in tech, a lot of your gadgets will feel old or wear down pretty quickly as innovations keep coming. And I didn't want to have to replace the screen on my bike every couple of years. That would be hundreds of dollars each time I wanted to do that. All right, so entering my research phase. First, I just started looking up other people who had a DIY setup. So I found a couple blogs. I found some advice on Reddit. There is a subreddit called Peloton Cycle, and that is all Peloton users, whether they have the bike or the tread or not. But there were a lot of people talking about DIY setups, and they have wiki pages discussing some of the options you have when you choose to go DIY. So I looked through there. I found a Facebook group called Peloton Digital App Users. And then I also found groups called Pelo Vegans, since I'm vegan, and there were a lot of app writers on there too. So when it comes to actually getting a bike, you have a huge range of price points when you choose to go DIY. You can find one for around $200 on Amazon. It's probably not going to be a great one, but you can go as low as $200. You can also purchase a high quality, like commercial gym spin bike for like $2,000 if you want to. So I liked the idea that I could kind of pick my price point and I can kind of choose like the quality of bike that I want without, again, feeling like I'm tied to any one platform. So when it comes to a bike, my biggest tip is to know your own goals and know what you're looking for. I see a lot of posts on Reddit and Facebook that are like, what bike should I get? And I'm like, I don't know. It really depends on 1,000 things. If you are new to spin and have no idea what that experience is like, and if you'll like it, you're probably going to be looking at very different bikes than someone like me who already knew that I really love spin classes and I knew I was going to commit to this forever. So big difference there. There's also just in terms of budget, in terms of your body proportions, in terms of like small details of like, do you like a magnetic or physical resistance? Like there's all kinds of things that you need to think about that no one stranger can really solve all of those problems for you. I ended up going for a Le Monde RevMaster Sport, which seems to be kind of a rare model. In hindsight, I should have gotten the RevMaster Pro, but I had heard a lot about Le Monde on some of the Peloton DIY forums that I had seen. And so it is very widely loved. A lot of people who care about bikes and bike quality had really talked a lot about the brand. It's pretty compact, yet it's really sturdy. And so that really meant a lot to me because I was in my apartment at the time and we had cleared off a little space for this bike, but I really didn't want to get anything big and bulky. In addition to the bike itself, there are things that people who have the actual Peloton bikes love about the whole Peloton experience, and so much of that has to do with the data. So in order to kind of replicate some of that experience, especially while you're using the app in a ride, there are some equipment, some pieces of things that you will want to get. I absolutely love the iPad holder I got for my bike. I got it on Amazon, and it has a really easy way to lock and unlock from where you are sitting on the bike. So I highly recommend the iPad holder I got. After a while, I also decided I wanted to have a little sort of bin or something like to hold some stuff near the bike because I didn't install the water bottle holder. I don't know why I didn't. I think it was in a place that the iPad holder would have interfered with it, and or I just didn't really think I wanted it. I don't know. But I ended up getting this little bin thing that hangs from the handlebars. I think it's technically for a stroller, like for when you have a baby. So I have like a stroller organizer on there. It does have a little pocket for a water bottle. So that's nice. Sometimes use it for my phone, sometimes use it for my water. But I can also hold my towels if I need a sweat towel that day, and I can hold my cleaning wipes. And if you get cleaning wipes for your bike, as you should, make sure they're bleach free. You don't want to ruin your beautiful bike. You need something called a cadence meter. And so this is a little device that you mount onto your spin bike, and it will tell you how quickly you are pedaling. And this is a pretty important number for Peloton classes specifically because the instructors will tell you a cadence range to be in with every moment of your spin rides. When it comes to a cadence meter, there's kind of only one option. It's by Wahoo Fitness, and it's $40. It tends to just automatically connect every time I start a ride, and if not, I can easily just pause the ride, get it to connect, and I'm good to go. You will want a heart rate monitor, and there are some tricky things about getting it to show up in the app properly. Nowadays, you can use an Apple Watch, and I do have an Apple Watch, and so the Peloton app will display your heart rate there. There are some problems with that for me. The reason why I don't use my Apple Watch is because it only will display my heart rate when I use my phone. So I ended up getting the Wahoo Ticker Fit. I liked the idea that it was the same brand as the cadence meter because I figured if all else fails, I can open the Wahoo Fitness app and get all of my data there if I couldn't get it into the Peloton app. And or taking classes outside of Peloton, I can actually still get that data by using the Wahoo Fitness app. So I went that route, and it's a pretty good heart rate monitor. I have no complaints. I have it already set up to only link to my iPad, and so every time I use the Peloton app, sometimes I have to reconnect it, but for the most part, as soon as I start my ride, or any class on my iPad, my heart rate monitor will connect and will show my heart rate on the screen. So having that on the screen has been super important to me, and I highly recommend that's something that you set up as well. Cycling shoes and clip-in pedals are, for me, a must, and I very, very much recommend investing in these if you think you are going to be using your bike quite a bit. It's highly recommended for a better ride, and it helps you pedal more efficiently and use more of your muscles. So I found some pedals on Amazon, and I really wanted to get some where one side you can clip in and the other side is the typical caged pedals, so that guests or people who don't want to have cycling shoes can come and use my bike and not feel like they need cycling shoes if they don't want them. I chose to get SPD pedals and shoe clips, and that is the more standard clip that you're going to find. So if you go to a public gym or a hotel gym or anything like that and you use a spin bike, you are likely going to be seeing SPD pedals, and so that is what I wanted to get. The actual Peloton bike comes with pedals called Look Delta. They have this sort of triangle shape on the cleat, and so that's that's a whole different model of shoe you have to buy. It's like a whole thing, and so I realized I would rather be able to have the more versatile option. I ended up getting the Shimano ME2 shoes and the SPD cleats. The cleats were only about $15. The shoes I think were around $85. I used a coupon, so I don't really know how much they're supposed to be. All right, so final costs. My bike was, I think the final cost was closer to $900 or $950. My pedals were under $40. My shoes and cleats were about $80. My cadence meter was $40. Heart rate monitor was about $80. My gadget holders and everything were $35. And then all the miscellaneous stuff I got was maybe around $50 or $60. My app has been mostly free. So I started off paying $19 a month. Back in 2019, that price went down to $12.99 a month. And then recently, like during the pandemic, there was a deal with the Chase Sapphire credit card where you would get a statement credit for using the Peloton app. So it ended up being free for me for about 8 to 10 months, I think. So for a while I wasn't paying for the app at all. Now I'm paying for it again, but it is only, the $13 that it's supposed to be. So the absolute total that I spent on all of this was under $1,500. It was closer actually to $1,300. So I saved up to $1,200 by getting the DIY route versus getting a Peloton. And I still got a gym quality bike, and my monthly fee is much less than half of what the Peloton membership is. So those are all my costs. But I feel like now is a good time to actually talk about the differences in the experience, because cost is important, but it's not everything. So there are a few things that you sort of miss out on when you use the app versus having the Peloton membership. So when you're on the Peloton bike during a ride, you get to see the rankings of everyone who is currently taking the class, which I've kind of heard mixed reviews about online. I feel like a lot of people love that feature because they can be competitive, they can filter it down to age and gender and all these things so that they can really see what group they're sort of competing against. And for them, it feels more like a real spin class, and they feel a lot more connected to the class and more motivated to work harder. I've also heard some not great things about it. A lot of people do complain that there are people who cheat. So for example, they'll take a low impact class and the point of that is for recovery and to not work very hard. And someone will be cranking up the resistance and pedaling super fast just to get that number one spot. So people find a lot of frustration with that kind of thing. And this all relies on the Peloton bikes having to be evenly calibrated across millions of people, and that's just not true. Some bikes are just easier or harder just based on the way they're calibrated, and I do see a lot of complaints, especially on Reddit, about that, where people have to get the Peloton team to come out and recalibrate their bike. So it's not really, to me, a real leaderboard. It doesn't feel like I'd be getting anything from that. There are also some pieces of data that are missing when you use the app versus the membership. So when you're on an actual Peloton bike, you can see your output in watts. Yeah, it might not actually be super accurate, but it is a metric that people really enjoy. And that is something that you cannot get in the app experience. You might be able to find a spin bike that gives you watts, but you won't be able to integrate it into the Peloton app. So you wouldn't have it all on one screen. You'd have to like reference your watts separately. For me, there is one thing that I really do regret about not having all of these features. There are rides called Power Zone rides, and those rely on output. And I have heard excellent things about these rides, and the reason why people really like them is that you do a test where you try to find out basically your max output, and so from there you get these what are called power zones so that you have different zones that are tailored to your abilities as a rider. And that is a metric that you can follow. So as you do power zone classes that focus having you ride with different output zones, then you over time start to be able to do more, and then those zones can shift. And so a lot of people say that that is a much more meaningful thing to use versus the leaderboard in terms of knowing your own strength and knowing your own abilities and being able to see your progress over time. But other than that, the experience, at least in my opinion, is pretty much the same. I think some people might argue that the integrated screen on the Peloton is nicer. It is also a lot larger than something like an iPad. So some people would probably say that that is a huge perk that you don't get when you're an app rider. For me, it's not really a big deal. And I have the option to AirPlay my iPad or my phone to a TV if I need to. So if I want a bigger screen, I can have it. But for the most part, my iPad is perfectly sufficient. I also find that I like to not just stare at my screen the whole time. If I am looking too closely at my cadence and my heart rate while I'm riding, I end up feeling a lot more like tired and like I can't do it. But when I take a moment to look above my iPad, I have a couple nice windows around my bike. When I'm looking out the window, just vibing, I actually find that I keep up with the call outs a lot better because I'm not thinking about it so much. So I actually prefer having the smaller screen that feels a little less integrated because I get to feel like a little bit more present in the moment in my surroundings. But that might just be a personal preference. All in all, even though this took a lot of planning and time to shop and get everything and set everything up myself, I really think this was worth it, not just on cost savings, but just in giving myself the experience that I wanted when I wanted to have a spin bike at home. So that's all I have for you about my DIY Peloton bike setup. Feel free to leave me more questions in the comments if I didn't answer something, but I feel like I probably got you started if this is a route you're interested in. Oh, and I didn't even talk about my shirt. So this is one of the milestone shirts. So Peloton sends these out to people when they hit their 100 spin classes. So I have my century here. So I got this when I hit my 100 rides. Unfortunately, if you're an app user, you can't get these anymore. It's only for like people who have the full bike and membership. So that kind of sucks. I snuck in right at the end. They announced that they were cutting it off for app users, and I was already in like the 90s or 80s range. So I was already close. So I was able to get mine in time, but yeah. Now I feel bad wearing this. I thought it'd be cute, but now I'm like, oh no, I'm encouraging people to get the app and now they can't get a shirt. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye.